Hey everyone, welcome to Two Takes on Film, the only podcast that has it all figured out. My name is Wyatt, and as always, I'm joined by Heather Davenport.
Hello. You didn't say my co-host.
Such a diva, always needed validation.
Yeah, I
My
need to be acknowledged for my role.
I'm joined by my co-host, Heather Davenport.
Hello.
Heather and I are two best of friends who love talking about all things movies. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to like and follow wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode.
That being said, thanks for being here today. Today, we have a special episode for you as we are officially in the midst of award season. Oscar nominations just came out last week, so we wanted to take today's episode to give you our predictions.
Unlike previous years where we waited till right before the ceremony to give you our predictions, we want to change it up this year and give it to you early. Like Heather said, nominations were just announced last week. We want to give you kind of our initial thoughts. This will be a mixture of what we think will win based on buzz we've heard or whatever expertise we might be able to lend towards the subject, and also just our gut feelings. What we feel in our heart of hearts is going to take home the prize in about 5 weeks. 5 weeks is such a long time in award season land. 2 years ago at this point, we were thinking something like Coda was just happy to be nominated. And then 5 weeks later, right before the ceremony, it was a lock to win Best Picture. So much can change in the next 5 weeks, and so much might. These predictions might look silly by the time we get to the night before the Oscars, but that's kind of the fun of it. We just want to give you our thoughts now. Do they stay the same? Will they change? We'll see. Before we get into our predictions, there are 4 categories that we are not going to cover in this. Those categories are the 3 shorts: animated shorts, live action shorts, and documentary shorts, as well as documentary feature films. Unfortunately, we have just not had the chance to watch enough of these to even have a guess at what would win at this point. Trust that we will consume all those nominees in the coming weeks and hopefully be able to give you our opinions on them by the time we get to the ceremony. But for right now, we're just not going to cover them.
For our first category, we have Best Original Song. For Best Original Song, we would give the award to What Was I Made For from Barbie. Now, the Barbie soundtrack was arguably the soundtrack of the year, and there were a number of songs from Barbie that probably could have been nominated for this category. 2 of them were, and we think that ultimately the race for this category will come down to those 2 songs from Barbie. What Was I Made For is certainly the emotional peak of the film, and I think carries a lot of the emotional weight and the overall theme of the movie as a whole. Whereas I'm Just Ken embodies more of the fun, comedic elements of the movie. But we believe that the winner for this category will be What Was I Made For?
Next up, we have Best Visual Effects. I think that this is going to come down to the creator versus a movie that I personally really loved, Godzilla Minus One. In the visual effects category, there is constantly this tug and pull of what are we really awarding. For the longest time, the Academy awarded the best practical special effects. Then, of course, it shifted, and now we are often giving it to the movie with the best CGI. Just how good the CGI in The Creator was, how beautiful that looked, especially for how small of a budget that had. I think that that's going to be rewarded. However, if something were to come along and upset it, I think that Godzilla Minus One would be a good bet for that and a really cool choice. It's a throwback to practical Godzilla movies, a mixture of modern groundbreaking CGI and miniatures and puppeteering and all that. So that would be a cool win. However, I think that through creator, we'll take this.
Our next category is for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and we believe that this is going to go to Maestro. Given recent wins in this category for The Eyes of Tammy Faye and Darkest Hour, it is clear that the Academy loves to award big for radical transformations of actors into real life people. Bradley Cooper's transformation into Leonard Bernstein is so impressive, and the makeup is really a huge part of what makes that happen. However, we do feel feel that Poor Things also is a really strong offering for this category, especially for a film that really hinges on this idea of transformation, of taking something and cutting it up and adding to it to create something new and different. It can only do that through the art of makeup and hairstyling. So it too would be well deserving of this award. However, we do believe that it will go to Maestro.
Next up, we have costume design. Now, this we believe is kind of a two-horse race between Barbie and Poor Things. Barbie, obviously, costume design plays such a huge part. These are dolls that so many kids grew up changing into different outfits, these iconic styles, and did a wonderful job at bringing those to life. However, Poor Things costume design is really unique. It feels otherworldly, almost alien, while also feeling like maybe a Victorian era period piece. So while this could obviously go to either movie, we think that the originality in Poor Things costuming might edge out Barbie a little bit in this category.
Our next category is Best Production Design. And just like costume design, we believe that this category will really come down once again to Barbie and Poor Things. Poor Things takes these real life places and puts a creative and sci fi twist on them through the creation of these impressive practical sets. However, the production design for Barbie is arguably one of the best parts of the film. Barbie, as a character and an identity, has already been iconic throughout the lives of so many people. And now Barbie Land has become equally as iconic. So that's why we feel that Barbie will take this category.
Next up, we have Best Sound. Now, this is actually a really crowded category this year, so I'm going to do something different. I do think that it's coming down between two movies, but I want to shout out all the movies in this category. The creator, along with its visuals, just sounded great. I could just listen to the movie all day. Maestro wove Bernstein's music together between musical numbers and more intimate conversations in a way that was really impressive. And of course, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I do have a soft spot for these movies, but I thought that the sound design in this last one especially was just unique compared to the other ones. It was much louder, more aggressive, very bruising. I remember leaving my IMAX showing and still feeling like I could hear the sound of the movie in my bones. You know, in a movie like that, so many different car crashes happen or punches are landed. So to make each one have an impact and not just become part of this clutter of noise is really impressive. So I want to give those a shout out. However, I don't think any of them are winning. I think that this is coming down between Oppenheimer and Zone of Interest. Zone of Interest is a movie that relies so heavily on sound. It's one of the most, if not the most important part of the movie. And I don't want to go into it too much to spoil the movie for those of you who maybe haven't seen it yet. But the way that it plays a part in the movie, while being so integral, is also really challenging. So while it might deserve the win the most in this category, I could see Academy members being so uncomfortable with what the sound does in the movie that they're almost unable to award it. Then you have Oppenheimer, something that Nolan has done very poorly in his past couple of movies is making sure that dialogue is audible over other elements in the movie, whether that be music or other environmental elements. And I do think he really corrects that here. It is easy to hear throughout the runtime, which is important given that it's 3 hours of almost constant dialogue. I think that it's an improvement on his films. I think that's a really good job. I don't know if I can say it deserves it over the Zone of Interest, but I do think that the Academy will reward it. Just Oppenheimer's momentum, I think, really carries it through this award.
Our next category is Best Original Score. This was truly a great year for scores, but we would give this category to Oppenheimer. Composer Ludwig Göransson partners once again with Christopher Nolan to create the score for Oppenheimer. The score is stressful and anxiety inducing, even oppressive at times. However, there are also these moments that are really light, soft, and flowery. And I think the contrast of both ends of that spectrum enhance the overall story of Oppenheimer. The Oppenheimer score is one that I have continued to revisit, and I think will be one that I come back to over and over again moving forward. A strong runner-up in this category would be Robbie Robertson's score for Killers of the Flower Moon. Robertson has partnered with Scorsese before and has never been awarded for his work. However, we believe that this is a score that really honors the culture and heritage of the Osage people while also giving life to this crime story. It is also important to note that Robbie Robertson unfortunately passed away back in August of 2023, so it is possible that this could be awarded to him posthumously as a way to honor him and his work. The last one that I'll mention is the score for Poor Things by Jerskin Fendrix. This one is just a fun score. It is whimsical, quirky, off-putting at times, and really accentuates how all of those things are also present in Poor Things. Although all these scores are great, we think it's a pretty easy prediction that Oppenheimer will win.
Next up, we have Best Editing, and this really is another crowded race this year. But truly, the edit for Oppenheimer is one of the most unique and impressive edits I've ever seen in a movie. At 3 hours long, an autobiographical World War II drama is edited like a montage almost the entire time. It's this deeply cerebral, whimsical edit for what could be such a standard, boring film that really keeps you on your toes, aided by the constant score that we already highlighted throughout the entire runtime. I mean, it's truly so impressive. Just complete mastery of the craft. Jennifer Lame, who now has edited 2 movies for Nolan, I think is so deserving of this award. I can't even imagine the task in front of her when all those hours of massive IMAX footage was laid out in front of her and she was tasked with piecing together Nolan's whimsical vision into one cohesive 3-hour epic, and she knocked it out of the park. It looks like right now, if there's going to be a contender, kind of a runner up to Oppenheimer, it'll probably be The Holdovers. The way that we're kind of pulled along the story, it's a relatively long movie considering it's really just a human drama about 3 people in fairly empty spaces. I think a lot of that is owed to the edit and the fact that it really never grows stale or boring throughout its runtime. We're pulled through it pretty seamlessly and it flows very well. One movie that maybe could come in an upset, but for the most part, we just want to shout out is Anatomy of a Fall. I love that we're getting to a point in these predictions where we get to mention Anatomy of a Fall because Heather and I both love that movie, and one of its standout elements is its editing. It does some really cool stuff with its editing, especially with its sound. I actually thought it might kind of sneak into the best sound category, but the way it plays with perception and sound, being a family drama, a relationship drama, and a courtroom drama at the same time, pulling you back and forth between all those different styles, is brought together really well and has some really impressive editing. So I'm glad that it got a nomination, but I think that the Oppenheimer edit is just way too strong and it'll take this category.
Our next category is Best International Feature, and we believe that the award for this category will go to The Zone of Interest. This is the only international film that is also nominated for the Best Picture category. However, we don't feel that it has a chance in that category compared to the other films that are nominated. We do think that it will take this. The Zone of Interest is a truly overwhelming film, not only in the content that it's presenting, but in the way that it presents it. As Wyatt already mentioned, the sound design of that film is incredibly grating. It is all-encompassing. It is impossible to leave without feeling the weight of what is being communicated in that film. So absolutely worthy of winning this category. I would say that Society of the Snow is another formidable nomination. This is a film from Spain and shares the story of this rugby team from Uruguay who's on their way to a tournament and experience this gnarly plane crash in the Andes Mountains. What proceeds over the next couple of hours is a story of friendship, of survival. It is intense, it is hard to watch, but ultimately it is a triumphant tale of perseverance. And I think the payoff that comes at the end is really rewarding.
Next, we have Best Animated Feature. We believe strongly this is going to go to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The boundary-pushing sequel to the 2018 winner of this award does all of the same things and some more. I mean, it was in the conversation for a Best Picture nominee, so I think that it's a strong contender for the award and will probably take it home. However, up against it, you do have The Boy and the Heron, which of course is from Studio Ghibli. It is Hayao Miyazaki's potentially last movie. It's been super anticipated and obviously has a huge loving fan base. So don't count out how strong of a contender that is. I do just think that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse probably is too big to be taken down. Next up, we have Best Cinematography. I want to start out by mentioning some movies that I don't think will win it, but have really great cinematography. Maestro, shot by Matthew Libatique, who is always excellent, continues that here. It's very compelling the way he brings to life Bernstein's story, very fantastical at times, almost like a stage play that maybe Bernstein would have written himself, then very grounded at other times. Additionally, Robbie Ryan, the cinematographer for Poor Things, just goes off the wall with director Yorgos in that movie and just provides some of the most unique, funny, and engaging cinematography of the year. Then we have Killers of the Flower Moon. Cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto teams up once again with Martin Scorsese and again shows expert knowledge of visual storytelling and film language. All of Scorsese's movies have the chance to win this award. However, much like score or editing before it, this is just kind of leading to more praise and arguably bias for Oppenheimer here in a movie that we think will again take this award. Cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema, who's worked with Nolan since 2014's Interstellar, again just provides a masterclass utilizing to its fullest capacity this massive IMAX frame. Seeing it in 70mm IMAX with Heather was one of the greatest theater experiences I've ever had. The scale of the images, both in story and in intimacy. I mean, so many close-ups on faces showing emotion, even down to subatomic particle size shots showing the inner workings of bombs, all the way out to the outer workings and the massive explosions or scales of this huge, huge story. He captures it all. I don't know how to describe it. It's fantastic. One of the most compellingly shot films. It's just undeniable. I think it's going to take the award.
The next category is for Best Original Screenplay. Now, with Barbie being selected for the Adapted Screenplay category, it really opens up the race a bit more for the nominees in this one. It seems as though love is really building for the Holdovers screenplay right now, with 5 total nominations, including a couple of acting categories that it likely will win. The Holdovers is actually a stronger option than I think a lot of people are thinking as of now. However, with an equal number of nominations, Anatomy of a Fall is also a strong contender. This is a screenplay that incorporates family and marriage drama. It is part courtroom drama. It is a murder mystery, and it's all wrapped up so cohesively. Although it has a 2.5-hour runtime, the way that the story is presented to us is done so masterfully that it doesn't feel as though you've just sat through 2.5 hours of people talking about serious content. I also quickly want to mention Past Lives. This was one of the categories that it was nominated for outside of Best Picture as a film that Wyatt and I both really enjoyed. We're so glad to see it recognized in this category.
Up next, we have adapted screenplay, and I've already said this a lot this video. I'm going to say it again. This is such a crowded category, and they're all such different screenplays. It's really hard to decide, so much so that I'm not going to. The Zone of Interest is a uniquely challenging film, unlike anything we've ever seen. American Fiction is a thoughtfully humorous drama that is just as funny as it is ponderous. Poor Things is wildly original and evokes really important questions and conversations through really comedic ways. Barbie has the massive task of bringing Barbie to life and somehow did it in a way that is critically praised and the highest grossing movie of the year. And then, of course, Oppenheimer brings a 3-hour historical drama to the third highest grossing of the year, almost earning $1 billion at this point. I don't want to pick one of these movies. I don't have any guess as to which one of these will win. It sounds like it could be any of them, and it should be any of them. I just want to take a brief moment here to recognize that we have 5 amazing screenplays and just how cool that is that we got that this year. Next up, we move on to another really impressive set of nominees in Best Director. Of course, we were disappointed to see Greta Gerwig not get a nomination. I think what I just mentioned, what she did with Barbie, turning it into what it became, was definitely worth a nomination. However, we got some really good ones here. Jonathan Glazer for what he did with Zone of Interest. Justine Triet directed Anatomy of a Fall wonderfully, and it's cool to see her get recognized. We love Yorgos Lanthimos and his work with Poor Things. He has arguably never been better, and I love to see the Academy continue to recognize him as he grows bigger as a director. Martin Scorsese, who with this nomination became the most nominated director of all time. He is arguably our greatest living director. However, we are just moving towards our pick for this category, my personal pick for this category, which is, of course, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan, have been since I was a little boy, and it is so cool throughout this award season to finally see him recognized at this level. He's won every version of this award at all the different ceremonies, so it's a pretty easy lock that he will win. But just to see his consistency as one of the biggest voices in cinema, bringing high level storytelling to large blockbuster scale time and time again over the past multiple decades, rewarded in this way, is really special for me. And what I love most about this is not only is it this cumulative award for his years of filmmaking, but it's very much deserving for this specific film. Oppenheimer is the best directed film of the year, in my opinion, and one of the best directed in a very long time. Often the Academy kind of gives out awards to directors that have been around for a long time as somewhat of a makeup award. They say, oh, there were times in the past where you should have gotten it, but you didn't, or this is just to recognize your career. And maybe the movie we're giving it to you for is not the best movie you've ever made, but it's more about the career you've had than this one movie. But that's not the case here. This does feel like the movie that Nolan has been building up towards for his entire career. And I think that we'll look back in history at this award and say, not only was it cool that he got it after all these years, but it was so deserving for that. Nolan could go on to make no movies that ever get nominated for Oscars again, or only movies that get nominated for Oscars. Maybe something that somehow tops Oppenheimer and is even better in the eyes of the Academy. But it won't change the fact that he's the winner for this year. He deserves it. And I'm just so happy that I get to be actively engaged in this celebration of his work and this work as it happens and as it's being celebrated globally and from the Academy. So I love Nolan. I think he deserves the award. I think he will win the award. I really hope he does.
Moving along to Best Supporting Actress, we believe that the winner of this category will be Divine Joy Randolph for her performance as Mary in The Holdovers. With Lily Gladstone moving over to the lead actress category, we feel that it opened up a bit more room for other performances to be able to be acknowledged in this category. However, Divine Joy Randolph feels like a slam dunk. She has already clinched the Golden Globe as well as the Critics' Choice Award for this performance. Her performance as Mary is the emotional through line through much of The Holdovers. She is an anchor and a foundation for our trio of lead characters. Another strong contender in this category would be Emily Blunt for her role as Kitty Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer. This is a different kind of role for Emily Blunt to play, but it is done so well, we could really see her getting acknowledged for her performance. The last one that I'll mention is just a quick nod for Danielle Brooks for her performance in The Color Purple. Due to its musical and more showy elements to her performance, we feel that this could be one that is really favored by the Actors Branch, who's voting in this category. All of that being said, out of all the categories, this is one that we do feel like is a for sure win for Divine Joy Randolph.
Next, we have Best Supporting Actor. We do want to give a shout out to Mark Ruffalo because we love just about everything he's doing in Poor Things. However, we think this comes down to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer and Ryan Gosling for Barbie. It's ironic that these have been the frontrunners since that fateful day of Barbenheimer, but here we are months later and it's still really between these two. Robert Downey Jr. is great in this movie. He puts in maybe his best work. I could see the Academy loving the fact that he's back to this kind of filmmaking after so long in the MCU. I could also see them wanting to thank him a little bit for boosting the box office for 11 years as Iron Man. On top of everything, he's just brilliant in the role, arguably the strongest performance in the film. But also on the other side, you have Ryan Gosling, already a cultural icon, Ken, a cultural icon, combined even more so. Will the Academy go with pop culture and their surgence of this character? Will they want to make up for the fact that Greta Gerwig missed out in director and Margot Robbie missed out for actress? It could go either way. It really will be close, probably right down to the end. However, I think momentum is on Robert Downey Jr.'s side, so we're going to predict that he wins for Oppenheimer.
Next up, we have Best Actress. Now, first and foremost, I just want to give a shout out to Sandra Hüller for her role in Anatomy of a Fall. She really owns her character and all the complexities that she brings with it. In addition to that, Sandra is also a part of the Zone of Interest. So seeing that she has major roles in both of these films, it's great to see her acknowledged for her performance. Up until this point, this category has largely been seen as being between two potential options, and that would be Lily Gladstone for her performance in Killers of the Flower Moon and Emma Stone for her performance in Poor Things. Emma Stone obviously has been here before. She is an Oscar-winning actress. Her performance in Poor Things was fantastic. However, we believe that this ultimately is going to end up going to Lily Gladstone. This is Lily Gladstone's breakout performance, and to be able to stand against two acting greats of Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, she brings a level of authenticity and honesty to not only her performance, but to the film as a whole. She has also successfully won multiple awards already, even when pitted against Emma Stone. So given all of those elements, we truly believe that this will go to Lily Gladstone.
Best actor, we think that this is going to go to Cillian Murphy as Robert J. Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer. However, it could be a closer race than some people might think. There's been talks throughout awards season. For a while, it seemed like Bradley Cooper for Maestro might take the cake. And now it seems like more love is growing for Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, especially from the Academy, which is a body that loves a movie like The Holdovers. I could see them going for his performance. And he's won a couple of these precursors alongside Murphy as well as over Murphy. So it could be a really close race. It's unfortunate. I would love to see them both get it. They're both actors that everyone recognizes. You've seen them in a million supporting performances. Rarely do they get to lead a film like this. Now this year, as they've stepped into those lead roles, they feel like they were born to play them. They're very different performances, but equally great. We do think at the end of the day, Cillian Murphy will still win for Oppenheimer, but this could be a really close race.
Moving along to the grand award of the night, Best Picture, due to its 13 overall nominations, including some really strong potential wins in both the acting category as well as Best Director. We do believe that Best Picture is going to go to Oppenheimer this year. That being said, it has been probably the strongest set of Best Picture nominations that we've seen in a while, with the love that The Holdovers has been getting as of late, as well as the love and attention that Poor Things has gotten. Those two could make a case for winning this category. Nothing is set in stone. However, we do believe that Oppenheimer will win the award.
All right. Well, those were our thoughts and predictions for what will win all the awards come Sunday, March 10th at the Oscars ceremony. It's still a long ways away. So much can change, but these are our thoughts right now. We want to hear your thoughts. If you're watching this video on YouTube or Instagram, comment down below where you agree with us, where you disagree. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, email us at twotakesonfilm@gmail.com. Reach out to us on social media. We want to hear what you think is going to win. But thanks for listening to our thoughts. We'll be back with plenty of Oscars content to come in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, watch as many of these Oscar movies as you can, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
You look like you're annoyed by my bias, my Oppenheimer.
Oh my gosh, not at all.
Oppenheimer. Robert.
No. I love Hoyt, so I can't wait for him to get that award.
He's just
He's amazing.
the freaking man. Like when you want to shoot IMAX, Hoyt's the doit. That's Dutch for guy. And he's Dutch. No, I don't know if any of that is true.
Sounds good.
Number one rule of podcasting, lie. 2 rules of podcasting, lie and always cop out when you can.
Take the easy way out whenever possible.
Take shortcuts whenever available. Sacrifice quality for quantity. Always lie to your audience. These are the golden rules of podcasting.
Never fact check.
Do you need sources? No. That's what imagination is for.